You could spend hours doing circles in this puzzle. Its name is the cast hexagon, and there's a bit of a trick to it. I'll show you, but first we need to align this top piece so it takes up the least amount of space on the inside. Following that, we do the exact same for the bottom piece, and now we have just enough room to pop out this third piece. Next, we move each piece clockwise. We have to line them up perfectly, otherwise they can't slide past each other. The trick to this puzzle is to move this bottom piece all the way over and to the left, and rotate it so it doesn't take up much space in the middle. As we rotate it around, we can see how it slides over the main piece and the other piece. At this point, the only thing left to do is to spin this piece around and to take it out, and this puzzle is solved. All four of these pieces slide together to form a puzzle. Its name is cast hexagon, and the trickiest part of this one is that not every piece is identical. Here's my favorite move, where one piece has to slide over both pieces at the same time. Now we have to rotate these pieces counterclockwise to make room for that third piece. The top piece is in the right spot as we're trying to minimize the amount of it in the middle. Now that we've done the same thing for the bottom piece, we just have to put the piece in correctly. Now that we have all three pieces back on the inside, we need to move the bottom one up and we need to move the upper one down. And it looks like we may have a piece on backwards here, as these pieces don't want to move around the way they should be. So let's get everything back to the way it was and line it up so that we can remove that third piece once more. And as we can see here, the hook is going up and it should be going down. So let's flip that around and put it back in. After we pop that back on, we're going to want to move that top piece so it's straight up and down. And once that's done, we're going to move that bottom piece so it's in the correct position. And with everything getting aligned, we can put the third piece in the right position while bringing down that top piece and then folding in that bottom right piece. These are not just 4 random metal arrows and a heart. This is Cupid's puzzle, and the objective is to put all these arrows back inside the heart. It isn't as easy as you would think, unless you know the trick. See, it looks like all these arrows are the exact same, but there's actually one different one. We need to separate the 2 arrows inside the heart so that we can pierce through it with another third arrow. Now, since all 3 of Cupid's arrows are back inside that heart, we need to arrange them in a specific way to allow that 4th one in. And it all starts with getting them to face the same way. So we have to mash it around a little bit just to make sure they all go together. And now that we have the 3 arrows together, we're going to put this one on a surface, just because this puzzle is extremely fiddly and this is much easier. So with the 3 of them laying down on top of each other, we grab the top 2 and we divide them, one to the right and one to the left. At that point, that unique piece is going to act as a key, and all we have to do is put it into the lock. Oops. Now that all 4 arrows are back inside that heart, we have to wiggle them around to get them all in the same direction and group them together. And after they're grouped up, that is how you reassemble Cupid's puzzle. Cast arrows. You may be wondering why there are 4 arrows in this heart. And while they may look the same, there is actually one in particular that is very different. This is a puzzle, and the objective is to remove these 4 arrows from inside the heart. In order to solve this puzzle, you need to get it in this arrangement. This will allow you to slide out the one single piece. This is the special piece that is slightly different than the rest, but as you can see, it's backwards, so we have to turn it around. Turning it around is not that easy due to the finicky nature of this puzzle. The second your right hand lets go of those arrows, everything falls and you have to start from scratch. Although difficult, it's not impossible. And now that we have one piece out, you may think that it gets easier from here, and it does. Barely. There is an intersection in the middle of the heart which gives us a chance to take out one of these pieces. So we have to align Cupid's arrows through that piece in the middle of the heart. So once we have aligned everything perfectly, we can slide out that middle piece from the heart. And at this point, it still is fairly finicky. We have to get one of the arrows in the side of the intersection going through the middle of the heart before we can remove the second last arrow. At that point, the last arrow will just fall right out. These gold and silver pieces of steel are 2 mazes stuck together in the middle. They form a puzzle, and the name of it is Cast Keyhole. Only the gold piece has an opening at the end, and the issue is that it doesn't move around the silver piece very smoothly. As you can see, the first step is to spin it and then rotate it to the top. It does have a fair amount of space, so we can slide it right through. Once you have it here, it looks pretty promising. All we have to do is rotate it around and let it fall. Once we push it over and wedge it through, we see that it does not quite fit. Now let's reposition it and slide it all the way through to the other end. Let's just give this thing a twist and continue going along the bottom part. It doesn't quite fit yet, but if we play with it just a little bit, we can bring it all the way up and then slide it out to the right. Now that the gold and silver pieces are parallel, let's see if we can get that empty gold space to fit through the silver piece. It doesn't quite fit because this silver piece has this toe right here and it doesn't let us squeeze the gold piece through. The real solution is much more simple than this. We just need to go back a step, rotate it down, and then pull it up. These are not just 2 random pieces of gold and silver. They have very difficult mazes in the middle of them, and they go together to form a puzzle, and the name of it is Cast Keyhole. Once the gold piece is connected to the silver piece, we slide it all the way down. Now we slide it along and continue it along the top side until it's all the way back in that starting position, but just on the top. As we move the gold piece up, we notice that it gets stuck, and we have to move it over in order to continue. Next up, we have to spin it around, and then we have to send it all the way back once again. As we're approaching the complete assembly, we have to reorient the gold piece. To do that, we need to slide the gold piece along the bottom and then spin it once more, then slide it back out so that we can reorient it with the text facing the correct way. And this puzzle is fully assembled. The name of this puzzle is Cast Galaxy, and the goal of it is to separate all 4 pieces from one another. It looks easy, and at first glance, that's because it is. But it may drive you crazy because these pieces go back and forth without detaching. Some would even say it's impossible the first time they've done it, but if you've done it once, you've done it a million times. These 4 hooks go together to form a puzzle, and like many others, putting it back together is much more difficult. For the first move, we have the difficult task of tying these hooks together like a chain. Giving it a quick turn will allow us to drop both of these sleeves down. The next part is the trickiest because these 2 hooks on the top and the bottom have to slide past one another. And if they don't want to go, you just gotta give it a little jiggle. And for the last move, all we need to do is twist it and let gravity do its job. And that's how to put the galaxy back together. This puzzle is not just 1 floor, but 2, and yes, there are shortcuts. The goal is to get to this box and back. It gives you some times to shoot for, with the top one being 53 seconds. I tried that in this video, but I don't think I got it. As we're finishing up the hardest part of the puzzle for the way there, we see a shortcut, so we may as well take it. That gets us there pretty quickly, but like I said, we have the hardest part to go. With this move, we go from the bottom to the top while skipping a whole section. And in front of each stairway is a little map which shows you what it looks like underground. Sometimes the ball gets stuck on it and you gotta wiggle it loose. Once we get the ball to the bottom leg, we have to move it very slowly, otherwise it overshoots and it goes into a trap. This next part tests our ball control twice, once through a door and the second time to avoid a dungeon. Once we get through this next underground area, we need to stop the ball here to take the last shortcut. And if you squint hard enough, you can probably see it there. It's supposed to go diagonally up, but we pushed it a little too hard, so we missed the shortcut, but that's okay. We just have to take the maze in this top floor. And as you can see, I didn't quite make that 53 seconds, but part of me thinks what would have happened if that last shortcut would have worked out.